the loneliness is a shrinking feeling. It's a void. It's when you don't feel connected to anyone. It's very external, and it's often triggered by lack of meaningful relationships and feeling left out and disconnected from the world. Through solo travel, I was able to transform that into a solitude, which is it's a choice. It's a powerful, empowering choice. It's when you embrace time alone and you're reconnecting with yourself. You're growing. You're healing. It's not about being isolated, being lonely on your couch at home, but you're sort of coming out. Your rejuvenation is what the word that I'm looking for.
This is By Joey Joanne Season 2. I'm your host, Joanne Chan, and every Wednesday we bring you inspiring stories, powerful message, and fun conversations with me and my special guests and friends, and it's my personal mission to empower you to live and lead a life with joy. This podcast is for you if you're looking for more joy, courage, passion, and purpose in your life. Now let's dive into today's episode and get ready to laugh, learn, and live your life to the fullest. Joining us today is a digital nomad and solo traveler on a mission to explore the growing issue of loneliness and the challenges of self-discovery in today's fast-paced world. Her journey started when she made the bold decision to leave behind a well-established career at a New York City agency, embrace minimalism, and become a nomad. For the past 2 years, she has been living without a permanent home, exploring 22 countries and visiting 37, all while learning how solo travel can lead to deeper connections with others and a more meaningful relationship with oneself. She's here today to empower you to step out of your comfort zone and embrace the adventure of self discovery through solo travel. So, ladies and gentlemen, help me in welcoming the solo traveler and speaker, Tsvety Rose. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. I mean, Joyanne, I listened to a few of your podcasts, and I think we are very much aligned with trying to inspire people about our different journeys. And I feel that your mission as well is very on cue, and it's incredible. So I'm honored to be on your podcast. This is so sweet, and I can't wait for our conversation today.
Thank you so much for the kind words. Now, I'm sure this is the question that most people would ask you, even when I know this is your first podcast, but when you're on the road or meeting new people. So why did you leave a well-established career and become a nomad?
Yes, that is the question that I get asked the most, and I love that question. It's the best one because it's the idea. What was the transformation that I went through to get here? And it's very important. And I hope this part is also inspiring to others because I know that some people have been in my shoes before. And the reason why I started, it wasn't just an epiphany, a sort of, and I wish I could say that it was strategic and I had really like this grand plan, but no, it was over the course of the years, and I realized that what looked like a successful life on paper didn't really feel fulfilling for my soul. I had this great paying job. It was at an agency. I'm a designer. I'll always be a designer. So that's graphic design is always going to be within me as a creative person. So I was working at an agency. I had a lovely apartment. I was living in San Diego, California, which is one of the nicest cities if you haven't been yet. And on surface, everything seemed great and normal and just going about my day. But something inside felt really disconnected, and I felt very empty and lonely, and I felt that I was lacking a lot of purpose, and that heaviness was very much within me. So there was something wrong, and it wasn't 1 week, or it was over the course of years, and I was trying so hard to uh, fix it in different ways that we're taught to fix this loneliness that we're all experiencing, and there is a huge issue out there, and I know a lot of podcasts and a lot of people are starting to talk about this loneliness epidemic. And I have felt it, and I was experiencing that, and I didn't know where to turn to and what to do about it. And so this sort of quiet dissatisfaction became, in a way, now looking back, a wake up call. And it was these series of realizations over the years of trying to make everything work, and basically chasing someone else's version of success, that was slowly bringing me down, and I wasn't enjoying, or from your podcast, I didn't have the joy in life that I used to have when I was younger. And I said, there's something going on. So a turning point came. I decided to take this long walk in San Diego, which it was a beautiful day. It was very sunny, and that's not very unusual for San Diego because it's always sunny there. It's very rare when it rains. So it was a sunny day, and I thought that even that was mocking me in a way, because you have this beautiful day, it's very sunny, but then inside I was feeling so low and so down and so disconnected from the world. And this walk turned into 6 hours. And during that 6 hours, it was just so much crying and releasing. And I just kept walking and thinking, and what is wrong with me? What is happening? Why do I feel so lonely? I just had no idea. And then I think it was time for me to dig deep and ask myself the really hard questions that I believe that I was subconsciously avoiding for a long time. And so I dug deep, and as I was crying and walking, and why can't I enjoy all this beauty around me? Why am I having such a constantly feel like I am lacking? And I asked myself the question of, what dream have I been putting off for the right time? What has been in the back of my head all these years that I have been wanting to do, that I just always say, not the right time. It's not, this is just a pipe dream. Maybe when I'm in a different, more secure situation, just waiting and waiting and waiting. And I said, well, you know what? This has been there, and it's that dream that's been back there, and I need to figure out how to bring this out. What is it? And I knew, I didn't even have to dig that deep, and I knew that it was travel, and it's always been travel, and I've always enjoyed to do travel. And at this point, the fear set in, because how am I making this dream come true when everybody else is busy with their lives? I had friends with families and with partners, and everyone just seemed to be moving on. And I said, I'm just going to do it alone. I'm going to pick up my bags, and I said, this might be extreme, but I think the best way to do this and to really give it a shot is if I let go of my apartment, put my stuff in storage. And I know this is going to sound like the cliche movies, the Eat, Pray, Love, and the Under the Tuscan Sun. And I know that it's all of both of those movies start off with the women, and they're in front of their storage unit, and they're saying, I can't believe my life fits in this. I was one of those people too. And now, and I even downsized over the years, or over the months that I've been traveling, to a smaller unit now, even smaller.
Mm,
But yes, at that time I started, and I was very uh, afraid, and I had a lot of emotions, but there was something calling me to do this. And I knew that if I didn't address that dream that I have been stifling, that had been in the back of my mind, I wouldn't be able to move forward and away from this loneliness that I was experiencing. So it's interesting, but solo travel really became my way to reconnect with myself and explore what really matters to me.
yeah. So, was it your first time traveling alone on your own?
Yes, yes.
Wow.
Yeah, I always,
Okay.
in the previous years, I always connected with somebody, or if I was traveling with someone, I was going to someone. So I think that's an important distinction too, is what what is the definition in my mind of solo travel? And in a way, a lot of it's not just hopping in your car, going for 3 hours or driving for 3 hours down the road to see your best friend. That's going from one sort of safe, comforting area, which is your home, to your best friend's house, which is also very safe and comforting. I think this is the whole point of solo travel, is to get out of the comfort zone. And this was my first time where I had booked, if number one, it was a one-way ticket. I wasn't sure when I was coming back. Number two, it was I booked for at my own Airbnb. I didn't know anybody. There was no one that I when I landed, and my first location was Malaga, Spain, which is where I am right now. And I always keep coming back to this city. It's incredible. And the point of solo travel is to really put yourself out there to experience something that you don't have the comforts of knowing people. So you have to throw yourself in this city. It should be in a sort of longer time frame, so you can have that time, that permission to spend time with yourself. And
Yep.
so it's not, you're not meeting up with people that you already know. So you're not using these excuses. You're not constantly on your phone either, talking to people back home. So you're a bit like, okay, I'm putting the connections that I had there, so I can be open to these new connections and these new cultures in this new city that I'm experiencing. So it's a very deliberate time to spend on your own with your own company. Yeah, the embracing part of this.
I'm a big solo traveler. I've also traveled to a lot of countries on my
I
own,
love it.
and so to me, it's never an issue. Whereas traveling with someone makes me feel exhausting. Like I have someone to constantly taking care of. For example, my mom. If sometimes I bring my mom just to show her, the world. Like that's one of my biggest dreams to, bring my parents and go see the world, right? So for
Mm-hmm.
and I know this is the one biggest question that I always get. Like people always ask me, like, aren't you afraid when you go to a foreign country all by yourself? Like, where did you get the courage and all that, right? So how would you say to someone who has never traveled alone before, and I know there are so many people, right, that have never done any solo traveling,
Yeah.
so how do they take the very first step? Like how do they overcome the fear of just the idea of being alone in a foreign city where you don't know anyone, where you don't even speak their language? Like, how do you overcome the fear of taking that first step?
Great question, and I think it's to start small initially. Getting to know yourself in the familiar surroundings. So maybe you're in a city and you're going out to lunch first. You're spending some time. You're taking the long walks. You're again disconnecting a bit from putting your phone down, and so
Mm,
you're open to that environment initially to start small with a lunch, or maybe you're taking yourself out to dinner. What I've noticed on my travels is a lot of people, even the solo travelers that I'm with, don't go to dinner by themselves in their own hometown. They don't even like going to lunch. So it's so much easier because you're in your comfort environment
right.
and in your city that you're living in, to just call up somebody and meet up that way. And you don't want to look like that loner in the corner,
Yeah.
especially in your own city. But it is a nice first step to start. I can have lunch by myself. I can do these activities. I can really spend time with myself initially. And so once kind of that step starts, then you're able to say, maybe I can do a day trip. So, okay, where can I just go for the day? Really be cognizant to not keep checking back in with people throughout the experience. So just gonna again taking that deliberate time to go to on a day trip somewhere where around your area, and then maybe you expand it to the weekend. So maybe you book a something to go during a longer weekend in the city that you've never been or if you're really feeling brave, you're starting with the next country. And then once you feel a little bit of these confidence start to build, uh, because that's how it started for me. I know until my early 30s, it wasn't until I moved to New York City, I lived there for 2 years, that was the first time at 32 years old is when I went to a dinner by myself. The first time.
What?
Yes. and and I know because I grew up in Michigan. Grew up in Detroit. I'm originally from Bulgaria, so I have dual citizenship there. So there's a lot of internationality in that sense, which I love. I was exposed at a young age, but it wasn't until I moved to New York where I saw other people that were dining alone that I felt safe to do that, and I said, okay, I can do that too. And especially after seeing this woman's going to stay in my mind vividly for a long time. She was older. She was in her, I'm going to say, like early 70s, but she was very put together, and she was just having lunch by herself. And I thought that was so empowering. And this was 6 years ago. And I said, wow, this woman, if she's in her early 70s, if she can do it, I can do it. What's going on with this? And then it still took years later until I finally booked my first trip to start the solo travel experience. And it felt weird. And I think a lot of people feel that they're going to be judged by eating alone. They're going to feel like people are going to point at them. It's predominantly all in our minds. Nobody's really caring.
Yes.
So
Yeah. Nobody cares,
yeah,
right?
no one's going
Yeah.
to point at you. That's one of the comments that I received when talking about this, and advising people to go have a dinner by yourself, enjoy it, see how that is. And once she said, oh, I feel like people are going to point at me, point fingers. I'm like, fingers.
Yeah.
So
It's you're so right, because it's so empowering to do things alone, to go to a restaurant alone, to eat lunch alone, because so many people wait for permission, wait for someone else to do things together with them. For example, if I want to try something new, right? If I want to go to this place, but I don't have a friend or even a partner or even a family member to want to go to that place with me,
mhm.
and you are just not gonna do it, like,
Yeah,
at all. You're just gonna wait? No, right? You're gonna do it yourself.
yeah,
So I think that's very empowering. Is like, what do you do when you don't have anyone to travel with, or to eat lunch with, or to go to a concert, to do anything, right? To go to a festival. So I think,
yeah.
yeah, I think that's very empowering.
Yes,
Yeah.
no, I completely, and it's a small mind shift that you're doing there. You're forcing yourself out of your comfort zone, but you're also opening up. There's so many benefits. There are benefits about this, that if you push that little bit of fear aside to get started into this, then you might feel that you're going to be more open to new connections, to new realizations about yourself, to new ideas that you haven't just had the time to think about because you're too busy. You're catering to conversations with your family and friends, which I'm not saying ignore them. That's
Yeah.
really not the case, but it's more about uh, finding the time to be with yourself too.
So how do you create meaningful connections
Mm.
when you are always on the move and always meeting new people?
Oh, that's a great question. There's an incredible skill that I developed now over over the 22 countries that I've been in, and it's something to do with I just start conversations, and I know
Mhm.
I make it sound like it's easy. I just start conversations, but I know it's hard, and it was a mental shift for me to sort of say, okay, I'm embracing this time alone, which there's a lot to that as well. And now I want to make the most of this experience. And I know that I love connections and I love learning about people. So how am I going to approach this? And I pushed myself to just start conversations wherever I was, whatever activity I was doing. And a lot of the times I tried to sign up for free walking tours. I don't know if you've done those too. I did one in Singapore actually. It was really fun. And
Right.
so you're in this, you're along other travelers, you're in this environment where you're starting your tour, and I just will go up to somebody and, so where are you from, or which is the traditional question at a lot of travelers, and then kind of evolves from that. But I found myself sometimes that because I'm traveling alone, uh, and I'm constantly traveling, that sometimes I just have a very strong emotions, and I tend to just share it with strangers. And and it turns out the more vulnerable you are, other people feel that they can be vulnerable with you as well. And I found out that the more I share about myself during these travels, and you also don't want to overwhelm people as well. If,
Yeah.
you don't want to go tell your whole story to a stranger. You don't want to impose on them, but over the course of, you're interested as to why they're there, and then perhaps there's something that in that moment that you're feeling a bit, you're struggling with, and I had a situation like this, which was, it was such a great way. I was in Thailand recently. I was on a beach, and it was scorching hot. I'm not sure if you've been, but it was so hot, and I decided to look for some shade. And then there was a lovely lady just on her beach towel, and I just went up to her and I said, "Can I share your shade, please? Share the shade. Yeah, I'm burning alive." And then we sat next to each other, and then I turned to her, and this isn't normally how I start the conversation, but I basically said, "Hi, I would love to have a conversation. I'm going through a bit of a harder time today, and it will be nice to talk to someone." And then 5 hours later, we're telling each other deep the stories about our families and about our past. And it turned out we're similar ages, and she's from Switzerland, and I had that we're starting to plan on how we can meet up in different places. And the biggest part about this is I was able to help her in rethinking her current living situation. So she wants to do a bit more traveling, and she said, I want to do something similar to you. My job is flexible as well, and it doesn't have to be so location based." And I told her, I said, where are you living right now? She said, I have my own apartment. Let's think about it. If What about if you move into just renting a room, basically downsizing, and then that way you'll have more money to travel, and then you also won't feel bad that you're leaving this space behind that's not
Yeah.
being used or utilized in any way. And the best part about this is a month later, she texted and she said, "I did it. What we discussed and
Wow.
what advised me to do. I moved into a room, and I feel so much better that I'm not wasting money this way. And now I can really go on longer trips." And so just making a few adjustments, which is, I love to talk about this. I love to
Yeah.
share all of these small nuggets of information that you can uh, tweak your current life to help you get to the next level of your adventure and your exploration, and whatever that would be. And I felt that was very. I think that was nicer for me than it was for her.
Yeah. Yeah. I would also like to talk to you about a sense of home and identity,
Mm,
because you know
yeah.
I think my longest travel was like 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's pretty significant, though.
yeah,
Three
and
months.
I was
Yeah.
in Europe, and I wanted to do like a Europe tour. So I did that, and I think I came back because it was getting too cold. Like it was like winter time, it was like getting too cold. I just couldn't stand the cold anymore, so I decided to come back. But not just because of the cold. Also, I was feeling like, I was losing my identity because I was abroad for so many months and I was constantly on in a new city, and I'm not with my family. I'm not, so I was losing the sense of home and identity. So how do you have traveled to 37 countries? So has that how has that reshaped your sense of identity, and what does home even mean to you right now?
Yes, that's a great question. That was one of the scariest parts for me too, because of our identity is so closely tied to what we're comfortable with the physical space that we're setting up. We correlate our identity a bit with this place that we're calling home. And this is one of those things that I had to let go of the traditional idea of home and the stability that comes with it. And I didn't see this coming. I think I don't know if you were surprised after your 3 months that you're feeling this way. I was definitely surprised, and for me, it happened after 6 months, and it wasn't until my eighth or ninth country, yes, Finland. It happened in Finland. There was a situation where it was interesting because I walked into a candle shop and then I broke down crying in the candle shop. And I know I talk about crying a lot. I think it's my form of epiphanies every time that I have these crying sessions. And I remember just being in a candle and thinking, "Oh my goodness, this all I want so many of these candles, but I don't have a home to buy this candle to bring it to. I don't have a house to bring this candle to." And I start crying, and obviously the candle lady is looking at me a little bit like, "What is going on with this person?" And I'm in the middle of Finland, and I think that's when it hit me because I didn't have a home, but I was more craving that what it symbolized. And then I started to think, I said, maybe I should start shedding these old narratives about what home is and what brings me security. And I think over time, I've realized I've been creating little homes everywhere. So in a way, what happens is I'm a pretty emotional and vulnerable type of person. But now, after even only 2 weeks at a place, I feel a sense of attachment, and I call it they're my little mini homes, and I always get emotional when I leave them because you are there, you're spending time, you're living there, you're crying there, you're thriving there, you're meeting these new people, you're learning about their culture, and it's in understanding that and being grateful and acknowledging that this is now my new homes and all of these homes, and I'm being so blessed to have these experiences, and maybe this is the new definition for me. And it was all about sort of letting go of that physical just one space for everybody uh, to feel secure, and turning it into maybe this is my little homes all around the world, little homes everywhere, and kind of again having a mind shift to say, let's rework this idea, and maybe that would work for me, and other people maybe not so much because they're so attached to, like, I have to have my bed, like my bed is the best bed, and I've heard that a lot because I've slept in so many different beds and Airbnbs and rented rooms and everything. So that attachment to your specific comfort, and if that's important to you, then maybe not doing it to the extreme level that I am wouldn't be right for you. But if you're not as attached and you're okay to uh, discover different cultures and feed your soul in a different way, as opposed to really prioritizing that I have to have my bed and it has to be my couch, and a sort of more rigid way of a lifestyle, then you might embrace the way I did it too. You might embrace your mini homes all over the world.
Yeah.
And to add to that, the funniest part too is I feel super at home when I walk into airports now, especially airports that I've been
Right.
multiple times
I
in.
know that feeling. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, you
Mm.
feel you feel a sense of relief, and whether it's starting a trip there, and I felt really at home at the Bali in Indonesia, the Bali airport. I thought
Mm.
this airport's beautiful, and also the Singapore airport is stunning. Now I feel like I could put up some pictures in the airports and just like make them my home, because that's the similar feeling that I have now when I go into airports. Like, okay, and this is having a routine in a non-routine life.
Yeah. Okay. How do you? Okay, this is a question that I've been asking myself lately, which is the world is so big, right? How do you know where do you want to go next?
Yes, what a great question. Uh, Initially, when I started, it wasn't as organized. I wasn't intentional about where I wanted to go. And it was kind of, okay, well, wherever I go. But then I learned a hard lesson, because you have to do your research. One of the countries in my very early days of traveling solo discovered that you have to do your research about holidays. And I was in a place where they had such a big holiday. Their taxis weren't really available. There was I had issues with Wi-Fi, so I couldn't connect with people or talk to. So
What is the
the
country?
important. So this was Cyprus. Cyprus
Okay.
after Cyprus at Easter. So this was it was a big learning lesson, because a lot of things they're still celebrating Easter, and Easter is the biggest holiday from the Greek side of Cyprus. And I didn't realize that very few taxis were available there. I had Wi-Fi issues, so the technician wouldn't be able to come for 2 days. There were so many different problems. My Airbnb had ginormous ants. All of these things happened, and it was because I didn't do my research, and I wasn't intentional, and I didn't understand that country's culture around Easter, and how they take it seriously, and how they have they celebrate. And and that's great if I didn't have all these things lined up the way I would have had them in the US, with uh, sort of the conveniences when everything is open 24/7 in the
Yeah.
States. And you can go anywhere, and there's always somebody that's going to be available. So when you don't do your homework ahead of time, and not know the specific sort of nuances of each of the country, and when things are available, then that's where you get into trouble, and that's when it starts. Then that's when it's stressful, and that's when you're sort of like, oh my God, why did I even come here? Like, what was I thinking? And then I would describe the situation to a friend of mine, and she's like, "Oh, what do you mean? I love Cyprus. I mean, Cyprus is amazing. It's incredible." And I know, and I want to go back with adjusted expectations. So when I travel, and this is what I love again to share with people, and I have a template that I fully keep myself on track. It's a Google one. I share it with my friends and family so they know where I am, because by this time now, my friends and family, they don't ask me how am I in text. They always start with,
Where are you?
where are you? What's going on?
Right.
Which continent are you in? And I say, okay, well, you guys, I'm good too. But they just skip over the how are you part. And so I think it's super important now. And when the next place that I pick, I ask a lot of my fellow travelers that I've met. I look at forums online. I figure out neighborhoods, proper neighborhoods. Again, earlier on into my travels, I accidentally ended up in a neighborhood was a little bit sketchy. Almost ended up, but I ended up reading the reviews, and it said it's this particular neighborhood, and it was in Lisbon. It's very nice during the day, but during that night it gets sketchy. So I wouldn't recommend it for solo traveling. Take these things very seriously. I think safety is incredibly important. And as a solo traveler, as a female, we have to be mindful. Unfortunately, it's that type of word. It's just the world we're living in. We have to be mindful.
So, what would you say is the biggest challenge as a solo traveler, and what is also the biggest reward as a solo traveler?
I'm going to start with the reward portion. Yes, I think the biggest reward for me, which I had no idea this would come to light, is understanding how to embrace solitude. I didn't really understand. So coming from this lonely place that I had described earlier, and trying to figure out how to navigate that and navigate away from it, I didn't
Mm,
know that embracing solo travel would lead me to understand solitude, and that loneliness would transform into solitude. So I'm not sure if a lot of the listeners know the difference. I didn't. So basically, the loneliness is a shrinking feeling. It's a void. It's when you don't feel connected to anyone, and it's very external, and it's often triggered by lack of meaningful relationships and feeling left out and disconnected from the world. And then through solo travel, I was able to transform that into a solitude, which is it's a choice. It's a powerful, empowering choice. It's when you embrace time alone and you're reconnecting with yourself. You're growing. You're healing. It's not about being isolated, being lonely on your couch at home, but you're sort of coming out. Your rejuvenation is what the word that I'm looking for, and so you feel a bit more whole and centered and at peace. And so I didn't understand the difference because I thought, the biggest. I guess that could be the challenge as well. This is nicely filling together. The biggest and scariest thing was that I would be lonely at home in the comfort of my couch, and then I would be lonely on the plane, and I'd be lonely in at the airport, or I'd be lonely at the city. And so that I thought that was, I was like, why would I even go through all this effort to travel alone when I'm going to feel the same as I was feeling back at home?
yeah.
And I can't even tell you that completely transformed. It transformed because the two things, I had a mind shift, and then I understood the importance of solitude. I embraced solitude. So the mind shift of being, okay, I'm just gonna put this loneliness little travel companion that it still comes with you. You're still gonna feel lonely at times, but then I'm gonna shift my mind to embrace this time, to take it as an opportunity to
Right.
not only understand much better about myself, to understand different cultures and different aspects of life. So I'd say the challenge of solo travel is that you are by yourself and you have to rely on yourself. But then that can turn into a benefit because you are embracing all of the challenges, and you know that you're now able to conquer them. So there's a level of confidence that comes from this. You're able to tackle. You're becoming so resourceful. You're seeing all of these different situations and countries, and now all of a sudden you know what, I tackled this last year when I was in
Yeah.
Porto in Portugal, and I was able to do that then, so I can do this here too. So you have a level of confidence of all the different types of problem. You become a problem solver, and sometimes there are the challenges of things aren't, they just don't really work out the way you plan them to be, as much homework and research that you're doing. And this happened to me recently. So I booked a trip to Vietnam, and I was in Thailand, and I wanted to go to Vietnam. But for some reason, I didn't realize the visa situations, and then the visa was delayed, and then somehow I got on this. The flight was also delayed, so I missed my layover, so I had to stay in Bangkok. So all of these things came
Right.
together, and I made an executive decision. I said, listen, maybe Vietnam is not right now, and that's okay too. The flexibility there, you learn how to be flexible through traveling and being like open to these different situations. And I ended up having a great time in Bangkok, and I wasn't even supposed to be there. You embrace the different adventures that come with it, and now it can be very challenging and frustrating, like, oh, but I had a ticket and I lost money on this ticket, and the visa just went to waste. This is, but it
Yeah.
happens. And over the last 2 years or so of traveling, I think that I've had minimal of those situations, and that's what we should also remember. You're gonna have them. You're gonna minimize them by being prepared and by knowing, kind of navigating and doing your research and talking to different people. And there's so much information out there, and there's so many influencers too about on Instagram, and there's so
Yeah.
many people that are sort of promoting travel and know that, and so yeah.
Yeah. How long are you planning on doing this? How long do you see yourself, doing this nomading thing? Like, are you gonna forever be a digital nomad, forever traveling, forever on the move, or where do you see yourself? What is your goals for your future?
I think that it naturally weaves into what it's supposed to come. So I'm already slowing down a bit, and we discussed this a little bit earlier about, initially I was very aggressive, and I said, okay, I'm going to do 2 weeks, 2 weeks
Mm,
in each country, and then I was only 4 days in one, and that takes a toll. That takes a toll on your body, and mentally switching over constantly. So then now I'm more into, I take a month on each location. So there's already a transition of sort of what works for me over time, and sometimes I even stay longer. Last year I stayed 3 months in Ireland, and it depends on sort of the community and the tribe and the people that you feel comfortable with, and the freedom that I have to not put pressure on a specific plan is something that I love about this lifestyle. I can choose to stay longer in a certain situation or a certain place, or but maybe I only stay a month, or maybe I stay like 2 months. So the flexibility there and the freedom around it. I don't specifically think that I will be traveling as much in the future. Over the course of the years, I'm going to probably expand, but there's always going to be I'm always going to be on the move. That's and take time for myself, and feel that it's important to recharge my soul. So maybe it's not every month that I move somewhere. Maybe it's every 3, 4 months, or maybe I split my time 6 months somewhere else. So it just we'll have to see.
love that. Yeah, yeah. All right. Thank you so much for your time today, and thank you so much for sharing so generously with me and my listeners
Thank
today.
you.
Now, we always end with our final five rapid fire questions.
Hmm.
So every question has to be answered in either one word or one sentence maximum.
Woo. All right. I'm already
Yeah.
sweating.
Yeah. And usually I will ask all the guests same questions, but because you have a very unique topic and traveling is part of my biggest passion in life, so I have different questions for you
Oh,
today. All
aren't I
right.
lucky?
So yes, you are so lucky. All right. The first question is: out of the 37 countries you have visited, which one completely stole your heart?
Hmm. This is asking like, which of your children is your favorite child? uh, oh.
The first one that comes to mind.
The first one, I'd say Thailand right now. Yes, especially northern Thailand.
And the second question is, which one would you probably never return to? Be honest.
Oh, well, I think this one's an easy one because we just talked about it. So probably Cyprus, not for a while, just because of the
Okay.
poor, not for a while,
Yeah.
because of the poor sort of research that I did around their holidays and not in the specific location that I was in. It was a hard week when I went, but that's again, I'm putting that fully on myself, not realizing.
I'm sure you had a traumatic experience. So yeah,
Yeah. But nothing against the country.
for sure. Yeah. Thanks for being
No,
honest. Now the next question is, what is the strangest thing you have ever eaten in a foreign country?
hmm. The strangest thing, I, I would say those little octopuses in Singapore in the market just now.
Really?
Yeah, those little guys that are just on the skewers. I don't know their
Yeah.
name exactly. I'm really bad with names. Apologies. But yes,
Sweet?
they're just little.
Is it
Yeah,
octopus?
the
Yeah,
squid
yeah.
little but they look like small little baby octopuses on the stick, and so
Don't
I'd
worry.
say
Yeah,
that was.
I don't eat those too, so don't worry about it. I don't eat those as well.
No, no, no! I tried them. They were tasty. I like
Really? Okay.
them.
Actually, I
Yeah,
don't like them. I don't like them. Interesting.
those
Oh,
little guys. Yeah.
all right. The next question is: if you could relive one day of your life, which day would it be?
Ah, that's such a good question. I I would say early on in the travels, and we briefly talked about this. I took my mom on one of the trips, so we went to Budapest together, and we had such a beautiful day in Budapest, Hungary. And I was there with my mom, and I was able to, you know, show her this new city that she actually has always wanted to go to. And we did it in a way. We started off with going on the tour, the kind of the bus tours, and then we did a lovely piano. There's a piano and sparkles and champagne. It was a live piano player, and they had champagne, and it was a sort of like a beautiful setting inside one of those famous cafes in Budapest. And I was there with my mom, and the beautiful music coming from the piano, and with my champagne in glass. And I thought that was such a beautiful, peaceful moment to share with my mom. So I would live that one.
Yeah, that sounds like a beautiful memory. Yeah, to relive. The last question is, what brings you the greatest joy?
This sharing my experiences with others. I really hope that it connects with people, and that they want to live a more joyous life by tackling their dreams and going after it, whether it's solo travel or whatever it is. This is bringing so much joy in my life to share with other people. To say that it's possible, that it can do it on a budget. You can do
Mm,
what however it fits for you. And I love to share the story so it can inspire others. And that is my big passion now, and
yeah.
I think it will be for a long time.
Yeah, I can tell definitely. You know, your passion, all that shine through throughout the whole conversation. So I'm sure my listeners they are enjoying this conversation. So tell my people where they can find you, where they can follow you. You know, what is the next step you want them to take after listening to this episode?
Yes, they can find me on my website, SvetiRou.com. I'm also on Instagram, again, SvetiRou. And when coming back to the website, they can click, they can set up a one-on-one session with me if they want to start solo traveling. I'd love to navigate whatever struggle that they're having in order to start that step, because it is hard to make the first step. I know, I remember I had such big fears about, oh my God, what am I doing? Why did I book this? What's going on? I'm going to be by myself. So I know that fear. I know that fear so well. But there's a bigger sort of adventure out there that I knew that I had to unleash. And so I would love if people can go on my website, book some time with me. I'd love to help that through them, and I can share my templates, my big tips about how to go from these countries, how to combine different countries together, so you can see a different way, different
Wow,
cultures, but
that
all
sounds
in
very
one trip.
helpful.
So yeah, I hope I have so much information to give. I am ready.
Definitely, yeah. I really appreciate that. Yes. All right, so yes, I will put all your links in the show note below. So guys, go follow Tsvety on her Instagram, visit her website, check out the links, and also thank her for coming to our show today. Remember to like and subscribe so you'll miss another episode coming to you every Wednesday. And I will always leave you the same way as I leave with every other episode. Show up. The world needs you, and you need you. Thanks for listening, and I wish you all a joyful and amazing day ahead. Bye. Thank you again for tuning into Find Joy Joanne podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, take a screenshot and share it on your IG story and tag Find Joy Joanne _podcast so I know you are listening. And leave us a positive review on Apple Podcasts if you haven't already done so. And remember to hit the subscribe button whether you are listening on Spotify, iTunes, Amazon Music, or any of your other favorite platforms. If you love what we are doing and want to become one of our sponsors, you can send me a DM to connect. And thanks for being here. I will see you soon in the next episode.